This video is about whether you can still learn drums later in life and above all, how it works. So if you've been wanting to play the drum set for a while but you're not quite sure how much sense it makes or how to go about it, then you've come to the right place. But even if you give lessons yourself and are looking for ways to support adult students, you will find suggestions here to motivate and encourage them. I will give you concrete tips based on the current findings on learning psychology as well as from my experience from over 20 years of teaching practice. And you will see some of my older students play as well. They are living proof that it works. Almost every week I get emails or messages on social media from people over 50, often over 60, who want to learn drums. They often had the desire as a child or adolescent, but only now do they have the opportunity or perhaps the courage to realize this dream. But they also often write to me about their doubts. If you feel the same way, stay tuned because we are now putting these typical concerns to the test and see if some disadvantages might even be advantages. You probably know the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So what you didn't internalize as a child, you can't learn as an adult. From a psychological point of view, however, this is not true. Our brain remains adaptable into old age. What tends to stop us are habits, social expectations and traditions. For example, that you have completed your education in your mid-20s and then work and dedicate yourself to the family. Hardly anyone learns a new thing from scratch afterwards and tries to bring it to a high level, so there is a lack of role models and unfortunately a common wisdom, common but false, that you can't master something when you are over 50. But it works, especially if you still have a drive like a 20-year-old. If you feel this way, then start and be a trailblazer and a role model yourself. Yes, with older age, around 60, the so-called fluid intelligence decreases. The ability to solve problems in completely new fields, to think flexibly and to recognize connections. The main reason for this, however, seems to be that from retirement age on, we just don't strain these mental muscles anymore. The brain's ability to make new connections and gain completely new abilities is retained into old age. The same applies to memory. It decreases, but this can be slowed down or even reversed through training. Use it or lose it. Setting yourself new challenges can be an ideal insurance against cognitive decline and even degenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. So not only can you learn an instrument anew at an advanced age, you in fact should. The physical component of the drums makes some doubt, but the same applies here as before. Even more so, not only do we have to strain the body to maintain its performance, athletic training even improves mental abilities and also slows down the decline in old age. If there is also a coordinative component, that is even better because it trains our brain additionally. The drums, as one of the most physically demanding instruments, trains motor skills and mental capacities as well as concentration at the same time. If you pay attention to fluid, loose technique, it is even good for the joints. So becoming a drummer might even be a suitable anti-aging program. So if you ask yourself, does that still make sense at my age? You have to practice diligently for over 10 years to become really good. I would answer, yes, of course it makes sense. Maybe you have 10, 15 or 20 really good years left. So you can actually get really good still. And these years will therefore be full of joy and a sense of achievement. And through the physical and cognitive training in drumming, you may even gain time and quality of life. So the earlier you start, the more time you have, in more than one way. Then there are social concerns. Of course, you might get some snide remarks. You have to be above such comments when you pursue such a dream. Anyone who does something that is not common in our society will raise attention. But on the one hand, there is often simply envy behind such remarks because the person does not dare to change something or tackle something new. And on the other hand, fortunately, it is becoming more and more accepted because we learn from science how well it can do physically, mentally and also emotionally. Because you rarely play an instrument alone. The best thing is to make music with friends. That moment when you form a unit with others and it grooves is just magical and irreplaceable. I really wish you to experience this. Often you're surprised who plays an instrument in your circle of acquaintances and wants to start a band. Or you can join an existing group in your area. This has an additional effect. Diverse social networks have been proven to strengthen health. So playing the drums can actually support you on a social level. You get to know new people. When you play gigs, you even get around a bit. And hey, if it's really a midlife crisis that makes you want to become a rock star now and play in a band with 20-year-olds, you have my blessing. After all, this is much healthier and also more useful for our society than buying a motorcycle. So we see, you can learn an instrument later in life, it's even healthy, and the drums have their own advantages. Of course, if you learn a new sport at 50 years of age, I would also apply a different standard than at 18. With an instrument, we also have to have realistic expectations. But most people underestimate what we can still achieve with the right methods. The window closes more slowly than we often think. To open it up even further, I will now give you a few well-founded strategies that have proven themselves with my students. First of all, we need the right mindset. As adults, we are unfortunately no longer so open-minded. We tend to doubt and criticize. So it's good to acquire a childlike beginner's mind and just try it out. After all, we play an instrument, so play around with it. Just throw yourself into it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because this fear would only slow you down. Be creative. There are no wrong notes. But we can also use the wisdom of age to our advantage. As an adult, you have more understanding of technical or musical concepts. In addition, knowledge of how motivation and learning work psychologically has been proven to increase one's own learning success, something that you might not understand so well as a child. And you have more foresight and therefore understand that it takes patience and many repetitions. Since you have better self-regulation, you can practice in a more disciplined way. All this means that as an adult, you can understand larger contexts more quickly and use this knowledge to take your learning process into your own hands, structure the practice time, and ensure that you stay motivated. Because, and this is my second concrete tip, practice always needs structure. As a child, you learn things more organically, simply from exposure and context. As an adult, you have to build it up more systematically. Set general and specific goals. So ask yourself what you want to achieve from the instrument, what kind of songs or musical styles you want to play, so that the overall direction is clear. Then take concrete, realistic projects for a few weeks or months. For example, working through a book, learning a song, or mastering a certain technique. Of course, the best way to do this is with regular lessons. Theoretically, you can make a plan on your own, but as far as the contents are concerned, you need experts, of course. In addition, we are all different. Especially if you already have existing knowledge or skills, a teacher can help you to support yourself optimally based on your wishes and needs. Regularity is important, but it doesn't have to be weekly. I have some students who come to me once a month for an intensive lesson so that I can keep them on track and give them exercises for the next few weeks. Yes, it takes courage to put yourself in this student role and to subordinate yourself in a certain way. But that's the best thing you can do. No teacher is perfect, but it's very important to trust the person and get involved with their concept and guidance. If it doesn't work out, you can also change the teacher after a few months. If you don't take lessons, you definitely need some kind of common thread. An online course is great. For example, I also have some series on this channel, for example, on foot technique, but I myself just still like the classic textbook and use videos just as a supplement. A tip to stay on track and get more structure into your development is a practice diary where you record your goals and note your progress. This way, you always have control and an overview and make your growth on the instrument tangible. And that brings us to the next tip. To keep yourself motivated, you should check every now and then how far you have come. Reflection is the key word. If you flip through your practice journal every few months, you can see what worked well and what didn't, so you can adjust your plan. You should also film yourself regularly and compare the recordings. This way you actually see your progress, but you can also notice things that you don't notice when playing, especially something like technique and posture, but also small inaccuracies that you don't hear when playing. Of course, you can also set up a mirror. This is actually the best because you get direct feedback on posture and technique. It supports motor learning and the evenness of the sides of the body, especially when it comes to the weaker hand. And even if you don't have regular lessons, go to a teacher every now and then, just to get feedback on whether you are still on the right track. A stock taking, so to speak, and a course correction every few months. This also works well in online lessons. I actually support some students from a distance. A few times a year we make a video call and I check where they stand, give concrete exercises, and a few months later we build on that and adjust the course. Professional feedback is so important because incorrect posture or technique can block your way and also cause physical problems. As a studied sports scientist, I naturally always have an eye for the topic of long-term health promotion and focus on it in my videos and especially my private lessons. Learning songs also helps a lot with self-assessment. You can structure your practice process by seeing them as projects of increasing difficulty. Above all, it's just exhilarating when you learn your favorite songs on the drums. Making music with other people is of course the most fun and automatically provides reflection and feedback. Above all, it is the purpose of practice. And yes, you can play with others right away. In fact, you should. Ideally, they are at a comparable level, but more importantly, they have a similar motivation. Adults learn very well by exchanging ideas with others who are at a similar level and also want to improve. That's why group lessons, if done well, can actually be better than individual lessons. A supportive community can accelerate your progress immensely. The best thing for this is a permanent band, but individual events can also help a lot. Once a year, I organize a big workshop where we also make a lot of music together and all age groups come together. And it's always great to see how everyone supports each other and everyone can take something away from it. But in the end, it comes down to patience and diligence. By far, the most important factor for effective learning, just like with training, is regularity. Really invest something every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. There might be ups and downs. And that's fine. Master the art of showing up. Really invest something every day. Your overall growth is made up of small victories that by itself don't have to be perfect. But having a perfect record in terms of consistency will accelerate your progress immensely. Practice slowly and precisely, lots of repetitions. Stay relaxed to develop good foundations to build on. This is the insurance for your long-term progress. And repeat the exercises and songs after some time. This is especially important at an older age in order to really internalize what you have learned as the recollection ability decreases. It can be very encouraging when you notice that things are still there or have even gotten better in the meantime. Always be patient and forgiving with yourself. You're doing something that hardly anyone does, which some even think is impossible. That's not easy and it takes time, but it is valuable and will pay off. Enjoy the process of development. Enjoy making music, the new insights and experiences, and that you are part of a community. And my last tip, immerse yourself completely in the topic. Of course, practicing more is always better. But to really become a drummer, there is more to it. Watch videos, read books, go to concerts, sessions, clinics, and visit workshops and trade fairs. Get into conversation with others. And above all, be a drummer, not just someone who plays a little bit of drums for an hour a day. If you identify with the music and the instrument, you will realize that you are part of a vibrant and incredibly helpful community and will be able to learn something from everyone. The drummer scene is very supportive. And by all means, follow your passions. Even the best plan from a qualified teacher or an online course is pointless if you actually want to do something else. Good basics and structured learning are important, but in the end, play the music you love or emulate your role models. So, if we didn't learn it as children, then we should at least learn like children, with curiosity, playfully, openly, and with complete dedication. To achieve this, here are a few tips for persevering. This section is really important because there are a few typical hurdles and doubts that prevent learning an instrument, and I want to help you avoid them. The first is quite typical. Lack of time. We tend to overestimate how much time we have when we tackle something new. But the truth is, the time is actually there. We just haven't captured it. Scattered throughout the day, you will certainly have an hour of free time available even in your everyday working life. But the trick is to bundle these chunks of time by simply setting a fixed time slot. Everything else then has to move closer together or be done more efficiently. My tip: if possible, set specific practice times for each day and eliminate time thieves and distractions. This is your time, just for you and your instrument, where you step out of the regular stream of events, time without any other responsibility. If you want to know more about how to create such islands of time, I recommend these books. And this is not trivial. Regularity is the key to success, and the key to regularity is time management. The second problem is that not everyone has the opportunity to practice at home. Maybe you don't have enough space or neighbors on several sites. What to do? I myself also rent a room where I can practice undisturbed. Unfortunately, this is often necessary if you don't own a house. If you play in a band, you need a common rehearsal room anyway, then you can practice there. Otherwise, there is the possibility to use practice pads at home. You can also insulate a room with a sound platform and acoustic absorbers, which is exactly what I have done here. This might give you some leeway with the neighbors. In larger cities, there are providers of ready-made rehearsal rooms where you can practice, and music schools sometimes offer time slots for individual practice. Just ask. An electronic drum kit is of course a solution, but even there the impact sound must be absorbed. And to be honest, I think it's a foul compromise. This is because e-drums are a different instrument than the acoustic drum kit. You play differently and can't transfer everything. Yes, the drums bring the volume and space problem with it. You will have to deal with that. Unfortunately, that's the truth. But don't let that put you off. Where there's a will, there's a way. And as you can see, there are many options. Maybe you'll share your experiences and solutions in the comments. Another hurdle is that you have unrealistic expectations. I don't mean what you can achieve on the instrument in advanced age. Most people have no illusions about that. I would even say that most people far underestimate what can be achieved through diligent practice, even over 50. I hear this regularly when someone takes lessons with me. I'm 55 now, I'm not going to be a rock star anymore. And I always reply, only if you don't believe in it, because if you really want to, you could. However, the diligence that is needed for this is underestimated. It takes a lot more repetition than most people believe or want to believe. You have to plan an hour of focused practice time per day if you want to make great progress. More is better. Think long term. The more you practice, the more you can learn, as practice in itself is a skill that we improve through repetition. Have faith that consistency leads to successes that motivate you. And that brings us straight to hurdle number 4. The euphoria of the beginning usually disappears after a few months. You let the systematic practice slide and your determination decreases. If you know this in advance, you can take countermeasures. And this simply through the already so praised consistency. Because in fact, many people misunderstand the topic of motivation. There is no point in waiting for the desire to practice. Then we make ourselves dependent on the form of day and our spontaneous moods. Regularity comes first. We set goals, practice in a structured way, make our progress measurable, and these successes motivate us to keep practicing. Motivation is therefore not the prerequisite, but the reward for diligence. This way you stay with it in the long term. Let me put it like this. We have to accept that practicing sometimes has to be done dispassionately, and quite often it is. Perseverance pays off. And that's why it's so important to incorporate the practice time into your day as a fixed habit. Problem number 5. You play regularly and for a long time, but somehow you don't get any better. This is often due to the fact that many confuse playing and practicing. Playing means doing what comes easy, to use what you have already learned. So this no longer requires any effort, and that's great. You should definitely improvise and enjoy your skills. But this does not help you improve on the instrument. This can only be done through practice. The systematic, small step honing of completely new techniques or coordination patterns. That's damn exhausting. You notice that you are practicing when it only works with full attention. You have to work against a resistance. Good. Use this resistance as your compass. It tells you that you are learning something completely new or trying to leave a well-trodden path. Especially as a returner, if you already have previous experience, you fall into old patterns or stay with the familiar. Overcoming this or breaking away from it requires willpower, but you'll be rewarded with new skills. My tip: plan at least half of your practice time for new exercises or songs, or the targeted improvement of your technique. About a quarter for consciously repeating and improving what you have already learned in the past weeks, and use the rest for free play or jamming to music. Another typical problem concerning motivation is that you let yourself be intimidated by others. It's good to have idols. It can be incredibly inspiring to watch good drummers, but don't compare yourself to them, but always only to yourself. A little better every day. Especially on social media, only the highlights are presented. And you think to yourself, I'll never be able to do that. You don't have to. You can do something else that this person can't. You go your own way. The seventh hurdle ties in with this, namely the oversupply of instructional videos, online courses, tips on social media, and also classic textbooks. You ask yourself, when am I supposed to do all this? Here too, the answer is not at all. Because if you jump between exercises, concepts, books, topics, try something here and there, then you set a lot of signals, but nothing really sticks. Because only many repetitions, slowly, precisely and relaxed over several days, ensure that you internalize something. So it's better to spend your practice time on the basics and continue in small steps. Then you see successes and can build on them. You can't build the first floor before the ground floor is in place. And before you build that, you have to lay a foundation. And I'll tell you something. Most of these different concepts, cool fill-ins or coordination exercises that you come across, are built on a very small number of basic principles. So rather learn these, then you can develop such impressive things yourself and make them your own. When you start at the age of 60, maybe even over 70, the thought certainly arises. I want to learn so much in the time that I have left, but who knows how long I really have? I can't stay with the basics forever and then also repeat them regularly. Well, either that or don't learn anything properly and squander the time. If you practice every day and take your time to work through a good book or online course, it might take you half a year, 1 year tops. Then you would have worked through 5 to 10 textbooks or online courses in only 5 years. With the skills you gained along the way, you would be unstoppable on the drums. So don't underestimate what you can achieve with regularity and a good system in a few years. If you actively do something for your health and dedicate yourself to drumming as an anti-aging program, you will certainly have a few more good years to practice, make music, and maybe even play gigs. And of course, you can and should be distracted by exciting topics from time to time as a fun digression or supplement, but nothing gets you further than good basics. As you can see, it works with the right time management and organization, with good guidance and a plan. Of course, motor learning is not quite as flexible later in life and you have to invest more time to remember things. But these are no reasons to not just start. Much more important is the question, are you itching to get started? Well, then do it! Every minute that you think about whether it makes sense, how you approach it, whether you can achieve your goals at all, is a minute in which you could already practice and play the drums. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. If you are still looking for an introduction or a common thread and are also a fan of the classic textbook, then please check out the Drum Quest books. That's a series I've contributed to as a co-author. Although the wording is more aimed at children, the exercises work for all ages. The books were designed in cooperation with a psychologist and systematically build up the most important basics in many small steps, from the absolute beginner to the aspiring professional. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn more, feel free to follow me on Patreon. This is a platform where I publish additional materials such as videos, articles and essays. And above all, you are invited once a year to the big workshop I mentioned earlier, where we learn and make music together. You can find the link to Patreon in the description. Finally, I would like to hear from you. Are you already playing drums or another instrument, or are you just starting out? What were or are your concerns? I'm very interested in your personal stories, so write them in the comments now. Thank you very much for watching this far. I wish you all the best on your way. Many great experiences with the music and insights while practicing. I'm always happy to support you. So if you have any questions, are stuck with something, or just need a little tip about anything, feel free to reach out, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.